Hi team, we run Coach Alexa here. I have been off on my holidays for the past couple of weeks, and I always find it really interesting when you go to a new country that you've not been to before to find out a little bit more about, the sports that are really popular in that country and what people get up to. And also, if you're flying in and out of a country in particular, I love it getting a great bird's eye view flying into a new city, and you can get a bit of a feel for the sports that they play there. Are there running tracks, or are there football pitches, or different sort of sports arenas set up predominantly for different sports? It gives you a bit of a flavour about what the people in that country are a little bit more into. Certainly when you fly over London and into Heathrow, there are a couple of running tracks that you can see from the sky, depending on which route you come in, past the old Olympic Stadium. Football, it dominates the skyline, particularly with Wembley. I just got back from a country where, rather unexpectedly, because this was not America, baseball appears to be the most popular sport. So the only big sports stadiums of any note were baseball stadiums, which was really, really interesting. Certainly that you could definitely see that planning out in, school playgrounds and parks that you went past, that baseball was a super popular game to play. Not that much recreational running, if I'm honest, but a relatively hot country, so it might not always be the case. And it got me thinking about a video for today around, there are, I guess, these sort of more national kind of preferences, aren't there? The types of sports that are popular at a national level that we might watch on television a little bit more than other countries might do, and also the sports that we end up doing more of in school. And the two are kind of tied together, aren't they? So taking the UK, for example, rugby's fairly popular, football's fairly popular, tennis relatively popular in the summer in terms of what you might watch on television, and they're also relatively popular, I guess, in terms of what sorts of things we're playing at school, particularly football, and hopefully more women's football, because it was not something I was ever given the chance to play when I was at school. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, there are some assumptions about, such and such a country makes good sprinters, or such and such a country makes good endurance distance runners. But actually, a lot of the research and the evidence science around that has shown that a lot of it is down to what is taught at schools, and also what children really want to become. So I think here in the UK, I certainly have a few friends whose sons and daughters are on football academy programs. So this is where you're kind of picked as a potential star of the future, and there's this whole system there to support grassroots football, to channel them upwards into potential elite level footballers, all in place. And it's a popular sport, isn't it? You see it in the newspapers all the time, and it's perhaps something that boys and girls at school really want to be a footballer. Arguably, some might say, want to be a footballer more than they want to be a marathon runner, at a professional level at least. And that got me thinking too, well, this is the difference. It's no necessarily physical differences between us and the Kenyans and the Ethiopians. It's just that in Kenya and Ethiopia, running is a really big thing. Again, they've got this big number of runners that really want to get into some sort of elite level running role, make their job, earn their money, make their money out of running. And they've got this really big system there to catch a lot of people at a young age, at school age, train them up, weed people out, progress on the ones with the real potential. And so they will end up, the larger than the base number of people that you start with, the more likely you are to get a decent number of people being able to compete at an event like the Olympics, for example. And that all of the training systems and stuff that goes around that. So I guess I wanted to sort of close this with a little bit of a thought that I'm a firm believer that there's a sport out for everyone. There's a sport that suits you, that you enjoy, that might suit you physically more than others, and your build. For example, if you're a broad-shouldered 6'2" person, you might be a little bit more suited to running than somebody who's of a shorter stature. But there are also a whole world of different sports out there that I firmly believe there's something out there for everyone in terms of enjoyment level as well, regardless or not of whether you want to take it particularly seriously. And I do think sometimes it's a little bit of a shame that some sports become so popular only because it's often at the expense of other things, isn't it? You know, running was never taken very seriously at my school. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it was only given to something to do to the people like myself who were too rubbish at any of the team or catching based sports. And unfortunately that meant that I hardly did any sport at all until I was in my mid-20s and sort of rediscovered running properly. But yeah, if we had the chance to try lots of different things, then maybe we might find more amazing sports that we're into. And one of the upsides, I guess, of possible small silver lining of the COVID pandemic is more people discovered running. They got out there because it was one of the few sports we could do, and they realised, actually, it's pretty good, isn't it? Anyway, food for thought. Happy running.